What is up, YouTube? Welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, then just welcome to my channel. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button because you will not be disappointed. Today's video, as you can tell by the title, is going to be another true crime story. If you watch American Horror Story, Lady Gaga's character was like this fabulous lady who was collecting these little blonde-haired children. Her character was actually based on a real woman. Anne Hamilton Byrne was really out here collecting children. Okay, it's a very interesting story. So that's who today's story video is going to be about. And without further ado, I'll just get right into it. Today's video is also going to be featuring the Anastasia collab with old Jackie Aina. So Anne Hamilton Byrne is known as the notorious Australian cult leader of the Family. It's another cult that's called the Family, but this is separate. Like, this is something else. They really need to get more creative with these names because everybody can't be the Family, okay? The charismatic mother figure thought she was the reincarnation of Jesus Christ in the female form, obviously. She was actually born as Evelyn Edwards in 1921. And homegirl lived a long life because she just died a couple weeks ago this year. So she lived to be like 98. Homegirl been around since forever. Her mother was a paranoid schizophrenic, so she died when Anne was really young, and her daddy was a Rolling Stone. Homeboy could not keep a job, so when the mother died, he was just like, you know what? I ain't about the single father life, so he dipped out, leaving little Anne to be raised in foster care. So little Anne grows up, gets married, has one child of her own, and unfortunately, she loses her husband in a terrible car accident. After that, she immersed herself into yoga, and back at this time, this was like late 50s, so yoga wasn't really popping just yet. But anyway, she became very much interested in yoga and decided she wanted to be a little old yoga instructor. And so that's what she was doing when she met her second husband, English physicist Dr. Johnson. They met and married in 1963. The following year, they decided to set up a group that was like based on a new age blend of Christianity and Hinduism. So she was teaching yoga to all the little rich middle class ladies and being like, hey, let's form a cult too, I guess. I don't think it went like that, but whatever. The two, being Anne and her husband, experimented heavily with LSD. And yeah, so they started introducing their little group to LSD, and they were just a whole little drug-infused clique, right? Mostly consisting of like doctors, nurses, lawyers, people in the, social workers, like high up social workers. Now, Anne was a bad bitch. Like, one of her members, because a lot of them are still alive. This wasn't that long ago. Granted, they're all kind of old. This wasn't that long ago. They're still tipping around here. And one of them did an interview and described her as an enchantress that could enamor people just by a glance. She was very charming, very charismatic. The members had to pay dues and a bunch of other financial obligations that homegirl just created for them. So by the time she rose to power as cult leader, she had amassed like this huge fortune. She had the finest of clothes and jewelry. She would travel often between the US, Australia, England. She was that girl. The members of her little sect lived in nearby towns and suburban areas. They were like well-off people. They would meet 3 days a week in one of her properties that was referred to as the White Lodge, and there they would just take LSD and just be brainwashed and taught all these teachings about how there will be a World War III or a natural disaster that would wipe out most of humanity, and they needed to prepare to take over the world after the fact with these perfect beings, right? Like, these people were so brainwashed and so convinced that she was the second coming of Jesus Christ that they were literally having children and handing them over to her. So some of the children that she had were natural members of the family. Others she acquired through illegal and forged adoptions that were arranged by like the lawyers and the social workers inside the group. She had connections. Homegirl had connections, right? And then, mind you, this was taking place in the 70s. I was reading about it, and it was said that in 71, There were 18,000 illegitimate births. And back in this time, I guess people, this is when people were really heavy on the drugs and they were just about a good time. They probably were getting pregnant left and right. There was no plan B. And so they didn't want to bring shame to their families by having these children out of wedlock or in their teens. So they were more than happy to hand over their kid to someone who promised to take care of them, which was little old Ann and the crew, who had the idea that they were going to come up with this master race. So once she got the kids, their identities were changed and their hair was bleached like this platinum blonde color. They were issued false birth certificates with the help of all her little family members in their fancy little positions, and they were dressed alike. Like all of them literally had the same haircut, same hair color, same little outfit. She wanted them to look as identical as possible. She wanted lots of little children, little perfect children with perfect hair in perfect little dresses and smocks to take over the world and make it perfect after whatever came through, right? Y2K. Remember Y2K? I remember Y2K specifically. I remember that day like it was yesterday. My mother did not go out and stock up on water and all of that jazz. Like, I guess if the world was going to end, we was just going to go out with it being our last day like any other day. She was not prepared, or maybe she didn't believe the world was going to end in the year 2000. I don't know. But homegirl did not make any preparations. But my best friend's family was the complete opposite. Like, I get up, I'm ready to go play that day. I'm like, let me go get my homegirl. You know what? That day, I had a fake nose ring in. I had taken a little hoop earring, closed it up tight, and put it on my nose. I remember. Because I remember him opening the door and me feeling like, oh shit, like, why the fuck does he have to answer the door and see this fake nose ring? I thought my girl was going to open the door and then we was just going to go outside and play. And I was just going to look extra cool that day, but that's not what happened. It was her daddy. And he was just looking at me like, bitch, the world finna end it, and what the fuck is that in your nose? He just told me, like, you shouldn't be outside today. She can't come outside. And I'm like, well, fuck, I guess I'll go home and just ride this thing out, right? Went home, waited on the world to end, and spoiler alert, it didn't. So anyway, where was I? When she was asked in an interview why she dressed the kids the same and dyed their hair and all of that jazz, she said she wanted them to look like brothers and sisters and that she loved to see them in their little cute little matching outfits. It was so beautiful and just lovely to see. Granted, I think they did kind of look cool. Like, it was kind of cool looking, I ain't gonna lie. Does that make me weird? Probably, but I have to tell my truth. This is my channel and I will tell my truth, okay? I have to be true to me. It was cool looking. Or maybe it was just interesting. I don't know. So anyway, a total of 28 children were brought up in the sect and hidden from the outside world. When confronted about why she imprisoned 28 children, she simply just said, I love children. As for growing up in the sect, the kids were secluded completely from the outside world. They were not allowed to go outside and play or interact with anybody else. They were taught that, like, the outside people are evil, that they would harm them, not to let them get close. It was a very us versus them type of thing. Every day began at 5 a.m. with yoga and then breakfast, and then they literally had rooms set up like classrooms, so they would teach the children things. I don't think they was teaching them what we was learning in classrooms, but they were teaching them something. After class, they would all have lunch, which they had them on a vegan diet, so they literally only ate twigs and berries, okay? She wanted them to be in the pristine, like, top. Is pristine a word? Let me check, because I might need to say something different. It's a word. Okay, I guess if it's top pristine condition, because they were supposed to be like the perfect race, the master race that was going to take over the world, and then everything would be perfect after all of us degenerates were wiped out. After that, they would attend training on anything that would make them superior to regular ass people walking around here and just doing regular things. Like, anything that would contribute to them being like the perfect being. Now, despite Anne fawning over these children like they were the best thing since sliced bread and so beautiful to see, there was a lot of mistreatment going on A lot of allegations of abuse and starvation. Now pause, hold on for a second. This abuse and mistreatment was not coming from Anne herself. You remember earlier I mentioned that there were adults that were recruited in that were, in these top positions. They were referred to as the aunts and uncles. And all of these 28 kids thought that Anne was their biological mother. Anne would travel a lot and she was out living her best life. While she was away, the aunts and uncles were appointed to take care of the children. And they reportedly were very abusive, which is crazy because it's like, girl, technically these y'all kids, y'all had a lot of these. Like half of them came from you, so why are you abusing them? Like they'll have my kid messed up. Girl, like I got my eyebrow because one of them is like, this one right here is just, hold on. Anne was described as very stern. Like her presence, granted, it was very enamoring and enchanted. As enamoring and enchanted as it was, she was very stern, but everything was fine as long as you obeyed her, and that she just was not one you wanted to argue with or make upset. Obviously, she's Jesus, right? It was the job of the aunties and uncles to keep the kids' roots dyed and keep them as identical as possible and just look after them while Anne was out living her best life for her bae. Hole in the straw somewhere and it's literally ruining my life. So the kids were treated okay as long as they did not disobey. I should be a rapper. I did not mean for that to rhyme. Where's my palette? Pause break. Today's look is going to be featured this cute little Anastasia Beverly Hills times Jackie Aina palette. Girl, I understand that you want to make palettes for the deeper girls, but it ain't no transition color in here for me. Like, anyway, punishment for any disobedience was always a beating or starvation, which according to survivors, I don't know if I want to call them survivors because everybody survived. I don't know. Are they technically survivors? Anyway, people who have given their accounts of growing up in the family said that the beatings were pretty severe and that you would also be starved for a couple days, which if you already feed me lettuce, like literally just lettuce, twigs and berries, it has to be even more extreme because once the children reached the age of 14, they would undergo an initiation ceremony referred to as going through. It was a religious ritual that was supposed to promote self-awareness and help you let go of like any of your little worldly desires or little, anything that made you not want to believe in little Anne being Jesus. If you wanted to jump ship, like this was supposed to take all of that away. So they were given this hefty little dose of LSD and then locked in a dark room for days. Yeah, just tripping. And then the psychologists of the group and Anne herself were the only ones that were allowed to like go in and check on them and I guess give them more drugs. I didn't even mention earlier about the drugs that were given on the daily as children. They actually were given Valium twice a day to keep them in like this docile, calm mood. Typically, like I don't have kids, but I hear and see from my visits to Walmart that they can get pretty hyped. So they definitely didn't want the kids like that. But anyway, during the ceremony, they were given all these drugs, put in a dark room to trip for like days on end, and then let back out. Neighbors kind of knew, like they didn't know the extent of what was going on, but they knew some weird stuff was going down. There were a lot of rumors around town about just the oddness of it all, the kids' hair, the 28 of them. There were a lot of whispers. And people would come and stand outside of the house to just to get a glimpse of the kids and just see like what the hell is going on in there. Like they found it kind of intriguing and a lot of people found it disturbing. So then they started to try to get the police involved and say like, hey, something ain't right over there. But it was seen as more of a welfare issue than a police issue. So the police was kind of like, yeah, I mean, if she's abusing them, they can do something over there down to the Child Protective Services office. But we don't see any crimes being committed. Of course, they didn't know that how she was illegally obtaining the kids at the time. Hell, they thought that they were her kids, and little foster children, legal foster children. The children were petrified of these people like standing out front of the house, because they were taught that all things of the outside world, including the people, were evil, and that they would be harmed if they were to have any contact with anything of the outside world. They just were really afraid. Sarah, one of the children of the cult, whose biological mother was an unmarried teenager that put her daughter up for adoption in 1969, began to become more and more rebellious. She would refuse to do certain things she was asked to do. She would take her beatings like a G, and then she would become unfazed. Like, bitch, okay, now what? Once she decided that she was going to try and herself, she was expelled from the family, because Anne was like, bitch, I'm Jesus. You don't talk to me like this. At this time, little Sarah was 17 years old, and she left. So when she left, she met these people that kind of helped her out, gave her a place to stay. And I guess she opened up to them kind of about where she'd come from and what was going on down there. There was an investigator that was already investigating the family. But like I said earlier, the police didn't want to get involved. Once they earned the trust, they got the inside scoop from her and eventually got the police to raid the property and seize all of the children. Up until this point, Sarah really still believed that Anne was her biological mother. Like, it was the detectives that brought it to her attention. Like, girl, you were not born from this woman. This woman stole you all. In August of 87 is when they raided the compound. Now, the police kick in the door. They come through the front. Little blonde-haired children scatter everywhere because they're terrified. They've been taught that, these people will kill you. They're the bad guys. Anne, however, flips out a back window and boards her personal jet. Okay, see, let me just be real. I don't know exactly how it happened, but in my mind, that's how it happened. I know they raided the compound. I know homegirl got away. But in my mind, that's just how I pictured it. She backflip out the back window, boards her private jet, and she flees. They can't find her for 6 years. Remember, she had money. So for 6 years, Anne was on the run, and they were looking for her. I mean, she just abandoned all the damn children, 4 children. Meanwhile, the children are taken into custody and put into foster homes while they continue to search for Miss Anne, who fled the scene with her husband, like a geriatric version of Bonnie and Clyde. After interviewing the kids and finding out about the treatment and all of that jazz, the aunts and uncles were being arrested, brought up on charges of like forgery and abuse. And so they started ratting on each other, singing like canaries. They wanted to tell it all to save their own ass. You know the old saying, why do 10 when you can tell on a friend? Meanwhile, Miss Anne was hiding out over here in New York City. And in 1993, she was extradited back to Australia to face charges. But get this, homegirl did no time. She was hit with fines for fraud and making false statements in regard to the adoption of Sarah, who had run away, and only a few more of the children. I guess the ones that she, obtained illegally, because, some of them were donated. She was only fined $5,000, which was nothing to her. She paid that and she retreated back to her little compound. I just put primer. It's eyelash glue. What the fuck is wrong with me? I guess I shouldn't drink vodka and try to film. That's what happens. Eventually, she developed dementia, and she lived out the rest of her days in a plush little nursing home where she was visited by a lot of the members who still believed in her. Like, a lot of the adults held it down. Like, they still believed in homegirl. They still came to visit her. They still, in interviews, speak highly of her. Like, I need friends like those, Some of the children went to visit her looking for an apology, which none of them ever got. She never saw what she did as wrong at all. Eventually, like I said, she developed dementia and she didn't even remember it. And she just died in June of this year. I believe it was June or July of this year, a couple weeks ago, at 98 years old. Ironically, these children that she was grooming to be perfect human beings grew up to have a lot of issues, which kind of like this one I got right here with this damn bronzer. Like, really, Brittney? What's the tea? I really have to stop having a cocktail before I film because shit like this happens. Like I said, a lot of them grew up to have a lot of mental issues. They struggled to then like blend into society, and really, like, who can blame them? They had a really fucked up, crazy, psychotic childhood, and they thought all of these people were their siblings, and they were not. They thought this girl was their mother, and she was not. And I mean, that's a lot to digest. Then you don't even know you can eat like chicken wings and hot wings and pizza. You thinking all you can chew on is plants, twigs, and berries. And then you get out here and you find that people are eating living creatures and animals and all kind of stuff. And then, I mean, just to take all of that in, who would not be fucked up? Others had like a little life of crime, child. They was out here stealing. They was out here just... She just really did the opposite of what she set out to do. You wanted them to be perfect, and look what they out here doing, girl. Fail. Pretty sure she was so disappointed. The bitch probably faked dementia. I would fake dementia. I'd be like, girl, I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened. I don't know them. I wonder if some of the kids, like, well, they're not kids anymore. They're adults. But I wonder if some of them keep in touch or like still talk, because they were raised as siblings, and to have grown up the way they did, like, they're the only ones that understand what that was like and how hard it would be to go into living a normal life, as being a normal, sane as can be part of society. Like, I would think they would keep in touch, but I don't know. This story was just so interesting to me. These poor children. Imagine the chemical burns. All right. I don't know why. I don't know what that is. This is the final look, and that is the end of the story. I don't have anything on my lips talking about this. The final look. Here's a gloss. Damn. This is the final look. If you enjoyed the video or the story, okay, let me know. Give me a like, share, comment, subscribe if you have not already.
Why are you making it complicated? It's easy. You're sitting on the couch, you're watching TV. You keep procrastinating over and over. No, do it right now. You spend all day on the phone anyhow.
I want to know what you think about this story and Lilo, and I would love to hear your thoughts. So leave your comments down below. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you in the next one. See you in the next one. I'm so lame. Peace. Bitch, I'm cute today. We know where to go.